Let's take a closer look at the new vintage collection, Book of Boba Fett Cad Bane action figure, VC283. Villa Varykino, living the Star Wars life. Hello there, and thanks for visiting the Villa Varykino YouTube channel. I have a new vintage collection action figure card here to take a closer look at today. This one is from the series The Book of Boba Fett, and this is of course the live action version of Cad Bane. I'm very excited to be able to get my hands on this figure. It is part of the recent Return of the Jedi dominated wave there. I haven't been able to find many of these in our local toy stores, but I have been able to spot the Cad Bane and the Boba Fett Tusken, so stay tuned for a unboxing of him very soon, and we'll definitely be on the hunt for those other Return of the Jedi characters because we're very keen to add them to our collection. So a little bit of a look at the backing card before I open it up. Very classic vintage collection styling here with the racetrack design. We have the Book of Boba Fett logo there in a very strong red, which matches the color behind the figure here, and that Cad Bane title plate there. We have a promo image of Cad Bane from the show here. He looks a little paler, but that is pretty much the effect of the sort of bright sunlight in the show. I don't think it's really to do with the printing on this card. You can sort of see the rest of his costume looks sort of very well lit in that outdoor sun, because there's a little bit of a disparity there between the blue of his face in that promo image and the blue of the figure. I think I do much prefer the blue on the figure, which is good, of course. And this one is VC283 as seen here. So there we have it. I'm very keen to get stuck in and take a closer look at this figure. So I have removed the bubble off the backing card there. I like to keep the backing cards. I think they look really cool. So now we have the figure in his plastic tray. So let's get him out and take a closer look at his details and these accessories. So we've got the figure in here with two blaster pistols. Gonna see how well I can get these ones out. Might need to snip that sellotape. There we got that one out. And let's see, oh, you see this one is, can I get that one out? There we go. And let's get the figure himself out. So now we have Cad Bane out of the packaging and we can see all of this fabulous detail up close. So the first thing that I noticed was I accidentally kind of knocked his head, and the hat is removable. I wasn't sure in the packaging if it was going to be all sculpted together, or whether it was going to be removable, and yeah, it just kind of popped off. So that's kind of fun, a feature that's not immediately evident in the packaging. We've got some nice painted details here on his hat. The one thing that I did notice when he was inside the packaging is on the underside, we kind of have a bit of a circular mark here from the molding process, which is kind of a bit noticeable depending on the angle you have it there on his head. I will say it fits down nicely. It's not a squeeze, and it does kind of want to sit nicely there, so I like that. Some figures in the past, my brain wants to say Embo had a hat that just did not want to stay on his head, and I was constantly wrestling with that one, so I'm glad that Cad Bane's hat sits nicely there. So I'm going to check out some of the details here. One of the other things that I first noticed getting him out of the packaging was the fact that his sort of coat here is sculpted sort of being swished back from his holster here for sort of a quick draw moment there. I think that that looks really quite cool because of course we have two blasters here that I'm going to test in a moment, because of course he's going to have his weapons at the ready. So of course he is pretty much an all over brown character, but I do see that there are some shades here. It's not too monochromatic. We've got sort of a shirt and pants being a different shade to his coat here. Perhaps slightly different shade for the boots, and again there for the hat. So they've tried to sort of break it up. It's not just sort of a cheat with it all done in the same color. And of course the secondary color that we see here quite prominently is blue. We've got a nice blue there on the face, and it's a little hard to tell under this sort of, I think we've got a metallic sheen on these blue gauntlets that seems to be sort of catching the light, I'm just sort of trying to see it closer up to my eyes. It definitely has a bit of a metallic sheen to it, which I think is really quite cool because, of course, these are sort of hard armored components there over his outfit. We've got sort of the fingertips on his gloves here, the same color as his face, looking very good. And we've got some very small sort of detail paint jobs on the belt and buckle, a little bit here on his chest there, and up here by his collar, the sort of bandolier sort of weaponry around his ankles. And, oh, there goes his head again. A little bit of the sort of tubing detail round to the back there. So I think that looks really cool. I was hoping, I'm just going to take his hat off so I can see there, that the tubes on his face were going to be well attached. If you have watched one of my earlier unboxings, the Black Series Ned B figure, there is a tubing between sort of his backpack that I found an absolute menace. It just would not stay in place. It was really hard to connect in. But these are sculpted onto Cad Bane's face. They look like they're really sort of, they are part of them, so they're not going to pop out, which I'm very glad about. And it looks like they are glued in place to the piece on his back, so that's not sort of fiddly, because I can move his head. Obviously it's going to restrict movement a little bit. I can get a little bit of side to side movement here, but it's not too bad. If I push it all the way around, you can see that it starts to move that back piece, which is just connected with a small little peg there on the back, which you can see there. I kind of wish something like the Ned B figure had those pipes in a slightly more sort of user-friendly manner, but I'm liking the way that they have done him here. So I'm expecting pretty typical articulation because he is a humanoid figure. We've got a little bit of sort of tubing here, but that doesn't restrict elbow movement. Might restrict it from sort of bending backwards, but that's a little bit unnatural. We've got pretty good movement there. We've got wrist articulation. His hands are, of course, sculpted in a blaster holding pose. We've got some movement here. Now this tubing, it does cross over the joins, so I'm curious on how well this will... Cool. Okay, it's not really affected by the movement there. Little bit of flex in that pipe means that we can move that very nicely. I know it's a black tube, so it's a little harder to see, but that doesn't stop that elbow movement nicely there. And then we've got pretty good hand movement there for getting some cool blaster poses there. It looks like if you really wanted to wrestle it off, this coat will come off. The sleeves are, of course, just his arms, but I guess if you're into customizing figures or want to do some different poses, this can come off. It's fairly rubbery, so you just got to sort of wrestle that off their arms and you can take that off. Underneath, we can see that we've got some pretty cool sculpting on his chest there with some sort of greeblies on his shirt. His belt is a separate component that is fully sculpted in like a rubbery, sort of similar to the coat. I'm just going to have a look at the back here. We can sort of see the way that it is attached here, and I can spin it. So that is, I don't know where the join is on this actually. It's pretty well hidden. It feels like it's sculpted in a full piece. I don't see the join. Yeah, that sort of feels like that's sculpted in a full piece. Sorry, I'm flipping them all over the place. So that actually, I was worried it would be like a small peg that you might be able to sort of break and then it would just never sit on his hips properly again. So we've got a pretty good sort of flexibility to his holsters, so you can kind of maneuver them a little bit to the front or get them out to put the blasters in there. That's looking quite good. You can just kind of settle it on his hips there, so it looks quite nice. I like the detail there of all that sort of ammunition on his belt and his buckle there, looking very good. He doesn't have any kind of seam in his upper torso for movement, so we've got classic waist movement there. We have got standard hip movement. We've got an upper thigh join, So we can, a little bit stiff there, but we can sort of rotate the legs at that upper thigh joint there. We've got some knee movement. Nice and stiff, not too hard. Again, it does always kind of show those joins when you bend their knees, but it's kind of par for the course for posability. And we have an ankle join there, fairly well hidden in the sculpting of the boots. That's always a good, useful part for getting just that good standing pose if you find that your figure just doesn't want to stand up straight. We've got a little bit of maneuverability there. So same sort of thing on the other side. He's not too much of an asymmetrical sculpt, just a little bit of difference in those pipes at the elbows there. So overall, looking pretty cool. I'll put his hat back on that way. Let's see how easy he is to stand up. I'm hoping he's not going to be too tricky. This is a little bit of a tight ankle on this side. So we'll see how well he stands. Fairly good there. So let's take a closer look at his accessories. So he has two of his blasters. Not too detailed, they're fairly flat, fairly thin, but that does make them easier to put into his holsters. And they're just sort of painted all over with a one color, you know, no details here in the paint job. Let's see how easy it is to hold them. They've got a pretty small, his hat's going to pop off there, pretty small sort of grip here. And these are where the action figures always want to move their wrists. But I feel like this should be, with just a little bit of wrestling, not too hard. I might regret my choice of words there. Is it going to go in? There. Okay, so I think that's a pretty good matchup for his hands. That looks like, you know, there being sort of a unique weapon to Cad Bane. They have made sure that it fits in his hand nicely. I'm happy to see that. Some weapons, it sort of feels like they have used not a very good sort of matchup between the hand and the weapon they're going to use, and you can kind of get them to hold it, but it looks a little awkward. This one looks very, very good. I know his pose is just a little bit awkward here, so we can sort of get him a little bit more shooting from the hip there. I think that that looks really cool. Good hand pose there. And yeah, just a little bit of, I'm always just a little bit cautious about pushing too hard on those wrist joins. I'm always a little scared of breaking my brand new figure. So let's see how well the second one fits in his holster here. So, oh, I didn't actually spot that. The holster is actually split down the back. I don't know if you can see that. So that's not even that tight at all. It actually just slips in there. I can actually sort of pull that out of the back like that. So you don't have to worry about getting it stuck in there or lost or jammed. You can put it in there and still get it out. So yeah, you can see that side sort of split seam there when looking straight from the back, but if you've got it on the shelf, you're not going to notice that. So that's fun for, you know, if you are giving this toy to a child, you know, they're not going to get that thing lost or jammed. Is that a, oh, and there's also, it has a small hole at the bottom. So you can see that when you put the blaster all the way in, the barrel, you can actually stick it out the bottom. So it kind of makes the bottom of the holster there. So that fits in nicely. Gonna see if I can just pop this into his other hand for a, now he dropped that one. Okay, let's see how easily this other hand will hold it. There's a little bit of a wiggle in these blasters, so they're not the sturdiest to kind of push against to put in his hand. Let's have a look, see. Come on, be good. Okay, you're holding that one. And let's get him holding the first one again. There we go. Cool. So now we've got him all ready to take on Boba Fett with his blasters. So obviously I'm going to tweak the posing a little bit better. This is just as a quick test. First look at the figure. I think he looks pretty cool. Lots of detail, good paint app. You know, he was pretty hard to find, so we didn't have a choice with figures. It was this one or none. But yeah, there's pretty good paint job on his face because he's got such an iconic look of his face there. He's even got tiny little pointed teeth. I'll put a closer photo in there to show you the paint of his face. It's got a pretty sinister expression, which I quite like. Because he's a pretty scary looking guy with those pointed teeth and red eyes. I think this is really cool, and I very much like the fact that those tubes are attached to his face, so they're not going to come out. And you know, once things start to sort of not fit in place, it kind of ruins the figure and the way that they look on your shelf, and just makes you feel a little bit meh about the way that they look. So I'm glad that they're fairly sturdily on there. It looks like he'll hold his blasters pretty well for posing. It doesn't feel like he's going to drop them once they're in there. Obviously I can knock them out, but they're not just going to sort of fall out. And he's pretty good about standing up. For stability's sake, I like to put my 3 3/4 inch figures on stands, because I do find that they can get a little bit wobbly over time, or just, you know, a door closing can sometimes just vibrate and knock figures over. But I think he looks pretty cool there. So very happy to be able to add him to our Book of Boba Fett collection. There hasn't been quite as many figures from this range as, say, compared to The Mandalorian. So we're definitely keen to add the ones that do come out so that we can start building up a scene space in our action figure room. So he looks pretty cool. Very happy to have him. Now I just need a Rancor. I want a Rancor with a Boba Fett on it, and then I'll really be cooking with a Book of Boba Fett scene. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments down below if you will be picking this figure up for your collection. Do check out our other videos for more Star Wars unboxings and adventures. Catch you in the next video, and as always, may the Force be with you. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like, check out our other videos, and subscribe for alerts about new uploads. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.